and welcome to Stormborn Stories. I am Vicky and I've created this channel so I've got somewhere to talk about all the books I read and some of the shows that I watch, and maybe eventually if I get around to writing fanfiction or anything else I can talk about that here too. So I did a little bit of book shopping today, and these are the 3 manga that I picked up. I have never read any of these before. I've never seen any shows that might be attached. I watch BookTuber, who has been reading this series, and I thought it sounded interesting, so I thought I'd give it a go. The other 2 are brand new to me. I quite like this artwork though. This is my quickly assembled TBR shelf. I've never had a TBR shelf before, and now I do. Terrifying. I have a lot more stuff that I actually want to get to. I haven't been reading a lot recently, so I'm trying to get back into the swing of it. But yeah, these are the first few that I've picked out that I want to have a go at. I'm making a little video.
A little video?
With my camera.
With your camera?
Yeah.
What's that video?
Can you see on the screen? On here? You see Mummy on the screen? Someone's feeling a little bit sick today. Has to be staying home. So it's now Friday morning and I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of an update on where I am at with my reading this week.
Why do you have some of your books out here?
Because that's what I'm going to talk about in my video. Alright, I'm going to try and talk about my books while the small child is talking about maths in the background.
16 times 6, 6 times 6 is 36, and 10 times 6 is 60, so it must be 96.
He's 4, by the way. So far this week
96.
I've finished 2 books. I've finished volume 1
83.
of Komi Can't Communicate by Tomohito Oda, and I have also finished The Magic in the Weaving, which is the first volume, or the first book in the Circle of Magic Quartet by Tamora Pierce. I'm currently reading
14, so it must be 14.
The Mask of Mirrors, which I'm doing as part of the Murphy Peer buddy read for June. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing her name right.
What?
If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm very sorry. And I am also currently reading The Power in the Storm, which is the second book in the Circle of Magic Quartet. Mostly because I finished the first one and I was enjoying it and I wanted to start the second one. I know these 2 were... Oop, dropping things. These 2 books were not on my TBR shelf, but I can never resist a reread of Tamora Pierce books, so let's start by talking about these. So these 2 books were not on my TBR shelf. I can never resist a reread of a Tamora Pierce book, and to be honest I was looking for something to get me back into reading some, I suppose, novels rather than manga. I've been doing pretty good at reading manga recently, but longer novels have been a little bit of a challenge, and going back to one of my favourite authors and rereading some of the books that I love is a pretty easy way to get back into it. So, The Magic in the Weaving. In some countries this is called Sandri's book, and this second one in the series is called Triss's book. They are a new world at this point in Tamora Pierce's writing. Before that she'd been writing the Tortle books with Alana, which is the Song of the Lioness Quartet, and Dane, which I think...
49.
The books in that quartet are Wild Magic, Wolf Speaker, The Emperor Mage, and Realms of the Gods. I think it's called the Immortals Quartet, but I can't be certain on that without having a bit of a look. But Magic in the Weaving, or Sandri's book, is the first book set in essentially a new world. As far as I know, this is completely disconnected from the Tortle books. So it follows the adventures of 4 young mages. Sandri, who is a noble-born girl. She is the great-granddaughter of the Duke of the area in which they end up living. Triss, who's the daughter of a merchant. Briar, who is a thief who has been caught stealing too many times and is about to be condemned to a life of hard labour. And Daja, who is a trader, and her people in particular were sea traders. They had a boat, and each of them has had a very uncomfortable time. Sandri's family have just died in a plague in the country they were visiting. Triss's family think that she is cursed and evil and they don't want her around. Briar, as I said, is about to be condemned to a life of hard labour, and Daja is the sole survivor of her family's ship after they tried to leave harbour to do their trading a little bit too early and caught a late storm. So they all end up at Winding Circle Temple, which is a centre of magic and learning, and they aren't told they're mages. They're just brought there, given somewhere to live, and eventually end up living in this little house together with a couple of the dedicates who, I suppose, are mages who are sort of in charge of them in this small temple. And they get to learn about their magic, and yeah. I don't really know if I can describe it better than that without delving into a bit more of the plot. This first book, even though it's called Sandry's book, I think it's called that in other countries as much as anything else because the other three books really reflect the other three of the four. This book, being the first, doesn't really, I think, focus on Sandry's story so much as it introduces us to all the characters evenly and to all their stories evenly. And in some ways I feel that's a bit of a letdown for the series, but not a huge amount. I mean, it's a lovely little book. I don't think there's anything incredibly compelling about the story, but Tamora Pierce is one of those authors that I've been reading since I was a young teenager, and I just keep coming back to them because they're fun little stories, and the writing, apart from the Song of the Lioness Quartet, I will get back to that, but apart from the Song of the Lioness Quartet, I feel that the writing doesn't really get harder to read as I get older. I mean, they're technically a middle grade series, and they don't feel like books aimed at children necessarily. They're just as easy to read as an adult as they were when I was little. So that's that one. I really enjoyed that one. Finished that last night? Pretty recently. The Power in the Storm, or Triss's book, I have just started. I am not very far in at all. Oh, I have to show you these bookmarks. So, I learned how to make these off a YouTube video. There are paper, origami. There we go, is that focusing on it? There we go. I found some unicorn paper to do this one. Basically, you get a square of paper and you can fold it up into this cute little bookmark that just tucks over the corner of whatever page you're up to. So, I've got a couple of those that I've made, and I can make more anytime I like. And I just sit on there like that, which is pretty neat. So, I'm only up to the start of, no, I've only just finished chapter 1. But this book takes place, it begins literally a week after the end of Magic in the Weaving. In the middle of a hot summer, they've just had one big event, which was the climax of the first book. This starts a week later with more things going wrong. This book definitely, I remember, focuses more on Triss's story, which is really interesting. I think that they delve a bit more into each individual character. And there's a second quartet that Tamora Pierce wrote later, which has the four students going their separate ways a bit, and you begin to see them on their own. So you get to see sort of Sandry shine a little more on her own there. But yeah, all in all, pretty good. Hoping to get through this pretty quickly. It only took me about a day or so to get through Magic in the Weaving, and I doubt this one will take me much longer. Komi Can't Communicate. I picked this up on a recommendation of a friend. I have looked at it before in the shops and not felt a huge interest in picking it up, and I think I can kind of see why now. I don't necessarily know if the type of story it is appeals to me, but I don't hate it. It's a rather interesting little book about basically a girl who, I'm assuming, has some kind of social anxiety and basically finds it very difficult to even speak. She's sort of mute in social situations. It's hard to tell from this first volume if that's something that applies around her family as well, or if it's really just in those social situations she finds herself at school. And yeah, they've just started high school, and there's a boy who ends up alone with her in class. Basically the school thinks that she's some kind of, I don't know, tough kid or something? It's hard to describe. Basically they think that she's sort of this kind of reserved, aloof princess, they describe her as. That basically she's, you know, better than everyone because she doesn't talk. And they sort of think that she's doing it on purpose, and this boy in her class finds out when he gets left alone with her that she actually just doesn't know how to talk to people. but she wants to make 100 friends. So he sets out to help her. And it's a cute premise. And I probably will pick up another volume at some point to have a look at it, but this one didn't thrill me. I think partly because there's so many... The way it's set up is it very quickly, like you'll get maybe 5 pages of a little bit of story, and then it'll start another little bit of story and begin to repeat things. And it's just sort of, I mean, even like this many pages into, like this little tiny sliver in, it already says we're up to 5, I think it says there, communication 5. So I don't like it when books are sort of pieced into those tiny chunks, because I find it makes it harder to read. And there were a couple of characters who, because they sort of misinterpret the reason that she's not talking, they're a little bit strange and a little bit off-putting to me. But, I mean, it's not one that I'll be rushing to get a second volume of, but I'll probably pick it up at some point to see how the series develops and if I might like it a little bit more later on. I know with some things, you know, you kind of have to get into them a bit before you really enjoy them. On the other hand, The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. Like I said, this is the June buddy read for Murphy Napier's, I don't know how to pronounce this, her Patreon Discord. And I have read, I am up to page 21. So there's a prologue which I don't believe is in the numbered pages, and then I'm up to page 21. And I am hooked on this. I need to spend more time reading it. The writing style I'm really enjoying. The characters I basically don't know at all at this point. But so far we have a girl who, her and her sister were being raised by some sort of thieves. There was a boy that she cared about. So the girl's name is Ren, and her sister is Tess. And yeah, there was a boy called Sedge, and in the prologue he was killed because of her. We don't know why. And then she tries to kill the lady who's in charge of these group of thieves, and she escapes with her sister. And suddenly, I don't know how much time has passed or what's going on, but there is a girl with a similar name to her at the door of a wealthy family, comes in, says that, you know, she's related to someone who left the family and who isn't particularly liked and wants to make amends. But she's this young noble lady. And I don't know what's going on, and I'm curious. But yeah, the writing style I'm really enjoying. It's sort of very descriptive. It's one of those ones where the world doesn't necessarily make sense to us straight away, but instead of trying to explain it, they walk us through it as though we should know what's going on so that we can kind of piece the information together ourselves. And I think that's a really nice way of doing it. So yeah, looking forward to reading a bit more of this. So I didn't end up reading much more after that last clip. I'm filming these vlogs from Saturdays to Fridays so that I can edit them over the weekend and get them uploaded. And because my son was sick, and because I don't know why, I just didn't end up reading much more. I did read a little bit more of Mask of Mirrors, but not enough to be worth a little bit of an update on it. So that will be all for this first vlog, and I will see you in the next one. Hopefully I'll get a bit more reading done this week.